So welcome to the 4th episode of Listening Conversations with Plants. Today we have gone out in our garden. We're sitting with our beautiful calendula, so called Marigold. In Danish that would be Morgenfrue. And if you're seeing this on a video, you can see all the beautiful flowers next to us. So for this episode we have 4 guests or 4 conversation.
All my multiple personalities.
I've invited my beautiful husband to join us, Stephan. Hi, Stephan.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here.
Yeah, then we're going to be inviting and have invited Calendula into the conversation. And we're doing this after Stephan and I have had a little Calendula and Cacao ceremony. So Cacao is kind of still in the energy. Really want to honor that, even though this is not such a Cacao episode.
And with you, that makes us 4.
Exactly. And the whole garden. And maybe some barking dogs from a neighbor or something.
Yes.
We'll see.
Who knows?
Yeah. So today we want to have a conversation about Calendula, with Calendula, and really on the topic of healing and a healer, that kind of topic. And then we'll see where the flow of today takes us. And for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, this podcast is all about listening to the wisdom of nature, to the wisdom of plants. And each episode we're taking one or several plants with us in to the conversation, drinking a tea or an extract with them. Today we both have tea of calendula and homemade calendula oil, and fresh calendula since we're in the garden. And then we're gonna dive into the world of, or energy of, that plant as a teacher, as a healer, as medicine. Yeah, so you're very welcome. My name is Eva Maria. Yeah. These weeks have been quite calendula weeks for us.
Quite intense, yeah.
Yeah, been growing it all over our garden and harvesting it and making oil, and it's amazing how abundant this plant is, where if you keep harvesting the flowers, it'll just for months and months and months just keep bringing new beautiful flowers.
When you have started with that, getting flowers off?
I think we started getting flowers in the end of the middle of June, and now we're in the end of August, and they're still just...
still looks not different. Yeah.
No.
Despite the seeds are coming more now.
Yeah.
We have here maybe you can see that here.
Yeah, beautiful
seed
seeds.
pods.
Seed pods, yeah. We got gifted these calendula seeds from our dear friend in Germany who has a little biodynamic garden, and I feel like that tells a lot about this plant. Because for me, it's such a generous plant. It's also called a companion plant. You know, it's one of those plants that if you plant it with other plants, it helps them. It like keeps certain pests away, and so it has this kind of really sharing, abundant, generous energy. And so, for us being gifted that, those seeds are just so aligned, I feel, with how the energy of this plant is.
Yeah, and we will do the same. So now we are collecting seeds, and let's see who will get them at one point.
Yeah.
Of course, they will come back into the garden
Yeah.
for the next year. I think we want to keep on going with calendula.
Yeah. And also the seeds of today, of sharing this conversation with whoever feel kind of called to dive into the world of calendula. Yeah. Kind of just feel like taking a moment and inviting this beautiful teacher plant in, together with our other teachers, teacher plants and guides. I want to start the we already started the conversation, but what comes to mind right now is really the question of like, who is healing? Who is the healer? What is healing? And I kind of want to start there.
That's a good point.
Yeah. What? I mean, that's a big question. But is there any place you want to kind of bite into that juicy apple?
I think the biggest bite is right away. We are not the healers. So there's many things, and I don't want to take away of anybody's self-empowering of saying we can heal ourselves, and I really acknowledge that in many cases this happens to heal ourselves, but more or less overcoming obstacles, and this is belonging to the mind. So because the mind is something we sort of have to master as humans, this is what we can overcome actually, and therefore many psychosomatic issues are rooted in the mind, and so we can literally heal ourselves by overcoming issues in the mind. But when it comes to true healing, when there is an open infected wound, when there is something so severe in the body that none of these strategies will work, then healing is actually a gift of grace. It comes from the divine and is in so many cases administered through the plants. And all of then what the healer is just the one who knows that plant and who knows to talk to its spirit and to connect. I think that is all what we can do. We can connect those two sides of the spectrum and pray that this will happen, that this wonder will happen, that this, I don't have a better word than grace, will happening through us. And it's really nothing we can provoke. We can learn the ways of the plants, and we can give them the right opportunities and the right mindsets for all of that. But true healing, as I said in the entrance, is a gift. It's gifted by higher consciousness.
I mean, when you start or like from what you're saying, what it kind of invites, or what comes up in me is really this idea that, okay, what is it that does the healing? Okay, we say it's spirit, or it's life force, or it's source, or it's love, or whatever we want to call that energy. In one way, we could say we're all that. So yeah, we're all the ultimate healer. But I feel, and it was just reminded, like we had somebody commented on one of our posts saying like, oh, remember you're yourself is the ultimate healer, and in a way I disagree. I don't disagree. Like, yeah, spirit is the ultimate healer and we are spirit, but I feel us claiming to be healers and us claiming to be the ultimate healers is can come from an ego thing, or can be like and again, I don't want to I think it's beautiful when we empower ourselves to say we can heal ourselves. But what I feel is that if I get a cut, whether that is physical or if that is emotional or energetic, I cannot, like the doctor cannot heal it. I cannot sit and look at my arm and be like, heal. The body heals. And what I have to do is put it in a state where healing can occur. So like healing is out of my doing. My doing is the practice of giving it space, making it clean, calming down, let the nervous system be in a space where healing can occur. And then healing, as you're saying, comes from grace, comes from spirit, comes from the plants, comes from beyond. And it's like, where does creativity come from? Did I write this song, or did this song come through me? And I feel something beautiful happens, at least for me, something beautiful happens when I give up on saying this is my song and more say this song came through me. And I feel the same with the healing and working with plants. I don't need to claim to be a bigger healer than, let's say, Calendula. I feel like Calendula is a master healer. And so I actually feel like something happens when I give up trying to be the healer and step back and be more the container for healing to occur. And this is, and why this conversation, why do we talk about this with Calendula? Well, because I feel that part of what Calendula teaches me is actually about this. Calendula is used, like, is amazing for healing wounds inside and out. It's like, antimicrobial and all those things. And it has been used, like, in Europe for probably thousands of years. At least, like, it's a really traditional medicine for wound healing.
It's a southern European plant, or do you know?
I actually don't know where it comes from. That's a very good question. Or like, original. And it's also used in, like, vaginal health. It's used a lot with, like, for instance, I use it in my yoni steams, which is great. And part of when I work a lot with this plant, like, first and foremost, it's like sunshine, but sunshine in this motherly, bright, calming way, I feel. Really in its energy, like if you look at some of the sunshine plants, like dandelion or sunflower or St. John's wort, they're very much like, here I come, where I feel, and it's also, just if you pluck the sunflower, I mean, I know sunflower have several, but it isn't in the same, I don't know, it feels different, it feels more feminine for me. It has this more kind of motherly open up, and in that open up, I feel that's like part of the medicine of Calendula, is really like letting us look at our deep traumas, our deep emotional wounds. It can be super comfortable and beautiful and nice, but it can also, like these weeks when we've been diving into Calendula, for me it's actually been really uncomfortable. I've been getting an ear infection and been having, like, a lot of physical symptoms of what this plant is actually guiding me to look at. And one of the key teachings that I find with this plant is that she's asking me to slow down and give space for the healing. Like, I can't act my way out of it. I can't work my way out of it. I can't just, like, do another ceremony, do another rapé, like, go into it, eat more healthy, whatever it is. It's like, it's not, this is a space beyond me. And when my nervous system and my, like, goes into, like, urgency and high arousal and want to act out of it, that's not a place for healing. That's a place of panic and being in high arousal or alertness. Or if I go down and just like low arousal, but that's also like when you collapse. If I go into collapse, that's also not like really a space where a lot of healing can occur. So she's like helping me into the zone of, here's a nervous system, here's a body that's actually ready to receive. It has to be slow enough and calm enough, and there has to be space for this deep wound, deep traumas to kind of come up with Calendula, get its sunshine into it, and slowly kind of be shined up with that beautiful sunshine.
For me, Calendula speaks a little bit a different language.
Yeah.
I sense that strong healing powers behind it. I sense the doctor, I would say, and it requires, in my case, absolutely presence. I wondered long time, where is that Calendula being? I cannot feel it. I cannot be it. It's somewhere there, but it's not as accessible as others, like
Chamomile.
like chamomile.
It grows right here as
Was
well.
so easy to access for me.
Hmm.
But yeah, I know when something is a little bit more difficult to access, then it has actually to teach something. So my journey with Calendula was more about, yeah, bringing me into a state where I am allowed to shine, where I am strong enough to invite that powerful friend. So I had to go into my own strength. And by finding that door or searching for that door and inviting her in over the last weeks, it was, yeah, I also felt sick and I felt weak, and it is, as she knocks at the doors, is like, you should maybe look here, and what about that? That is also a thing you really don't want to look at, but I can show you. And so, okay, yeah.
I hear you, and I have the same experience. I have the same, just in my way, right? But I really feel for me what you're saying, like I had some processes with her for some weeks where she was like, can you dare to be abundant like me? Like, can you dare to shine? Like, how would it be to live a life where you're shining? There's more than enough. There's so much that you can just share it. You don't have to be afraid of plucking a flower. I can sometimes go into like, oh, can I pluck you? You know? And I love to ask permission, and I always do that with working with plants, and also can be a little over cautious. And she was like, can you believe that there is so much love, so much beauty, so much brightness, and can you live from that place? And kind of teasing a little, almost like pushing that, like, how would it be? Do you have the strength, to hold that, to hold that energy of like brightness?
So you, in a way, you prepare yourself for a good friend to come, and then this one is a powerful one, and you prepare your rooms for it in a different way.
Yeah. And I remember when I started plucking calendula to begin with and started connecting with her, I was so I have some right here that we've been collecting to harvest, and I remember taking the flower in my hand, and what really felt for me was just like, whoa, here's sunshine in my hand, like, but not in this like, ow, it hurts sunshine. Like, we're sitting in the sun right now and I'm pretty sweaty and it's like, oh, this is warm. But like more in this like, like a big ohm almost. That's how I feel touching and like having a calendula in my hand. And I
think also the smell is not that sweet or something. It is a kind of sort of stronger smell.
Yeah, I mean, and also the wax, calendula has all this wax on it, which is part of its medicinal properties, right? And like when we make oil, it's really important not
it's kind of sealing up the wounds.
Exactly, it's like that waxy thing, but it's also like, for instance, when we make oils, it's really important to have the flower heads and not just the petals, because that wax is actually part of like, as I said, the medicinal properties. So in that way, it has this kind of stickiness, right? Which can be a little like,
maybe a little bit annoying, even.
Yeah. If
it doesn't let go.
It's like, hey, here is something. It's like the resin of a pine tree, or like a spruce. What is it called? Spruce in English. Where you go and it's like, oh, it's stuck, and then it's like sticky there, and super medicinal. One of the things that comes up a lot for me with working with calendula is kind of a melancholy, or like a sadness. It's like either or. I feel like either I go into this kind of space of melancholy and sadness and trauma, or I go into this space of like shining and expanding. So it's like expansion or contraction. But the contraction isn't necessarily like run away from it, though I do that sometimes. But it's more like this, going downwards. And it just, with working with this plant, it really reminded me of how some plants I feel are teacher plants and some plants are healer plants. Okay, all plants are healers, right? but some are more teacher healers, and some are like
more doctors.
Some are more a whole hospital, and some is like a doctor, and some are like a teacher that teaches you to become a doctor, doing your self-healing thing, right? Or and I, as an example, the birch tree, I feel, is a teacher. So she is helping us heal. She is going into all of the deep waters and pioneering the way into the deserts within us, and thus helps us heal. But drinking or like an extract of birch doesn't have the same kind of physical medicinal properties as, let's say, calendula, where calendula really is like a healer plant. And I feel there is a difference in how they teach and in the intensity when you like intake the plant, that it works differently when it's a hospital or like a healer like calendula. One thing that has been interesting for me is that, so some of the healer teachers of like local healer teacher plants, that I don't want to it's not like a comparison, but like a similarity, or like they're not similar, but this like that I would put in the same category as like a healer plant, like yarrow. In Danish that would be rødlige. Yeah, and what's interesting about here, like let's say yarrow, if you're making a herbal oil with it, you can put the fresh plant in. It's antimicrobial, anti-fungi, anti all that, so it can like hold in the oil. It doesn't mold that easily, and it's like fine. But calendula, if you make it from the fresh flower, it's really challenging not to have it moldy. I have several friends who tried, and it always get moldy. I haven't done it because everybody I've heard try to do the fresh, and also the teacher that I studied with oils is like, don't use fresh. So you use it dry, and then there's like different processes with it. But it's interesting for me that in my mind I feel like a plant like calendula that's good for healing wounds and has all these magical properties and all the wax should, in my mind, should be good to put fresh into an oil and last, and it doesn't. That's interesting. And I mean, we can talk about the physics of it, and I'm sure there's like, or biology or whatever you want to call it.
Might be just having, as far as I know, that those flower buds are the ones who need the longest to dry.
Yes.
So they're containing a lot of water.
Yeah.
And water is prone to bacteria, mold over time. So
yeah, but what I guess what I'm more going with it is that I feel like calendula kind of has a mind of her own on these kind of things. So like as a you gotta know how to treat her. And I call it a her. It could also be a him. And most plants I do feel is a hun, like a both and I do feel calendula very feminine in the way that this plant presents itself to me and how I experience it. What are some of your favorite ways of intaking or working with calendula?
I really enjoy that tea.
We're drinking calendula tea from the garden. Yeah.
I'm always into more of the spiritual connection, and from there on the physical will come. So okay, you can go the other direction as well. So that doesn't change the result.
It's just a different opening.
It's just where you actually want to go, from where you want to come.
I mean, I was introduced to calendula through yoni steams, actually, through working with yoni steams. And for those who don't know what that is, that's like a kusu-sauna. It's like a sort of for the yoni, the vulva, the pussy, whatever name you feel comfortable with using. And then I got this big, because that's when I heard the name calendula, and then for me it was this huge mind-blowing thing when I realized that calendula and Morgenfrue was the same thing. Because in all these fancy creams in Danish, they don't use Morgenfrue, they're like calendula cream. And I was like, wait a moment, this is Morgenfrue, which I of course know from my childhood and from growing up as this plant. Everywhere, but like around. Always liked it. And so in the Danish name for calendula, it's like the lady of the morning, so to speak, and like the plant closes in the evening in a way and then opens up for the sun in the morning. So this kind of, it gives me, the Danish name Morgenfrue gives me this graceful, elegant fru, like madam, but in a beautiful way of this. I can almost see this kind of goddess in those yellow-orange colors walking around a garden in the morning. There's a little mist and the sun is rising, and she walks around and gets all the flowers to open. And so from there on, when I realized that it was there, and I think you were the one translating it, I was like, what is it in Danish? And realizing. And also Marigold, the common English name, like another Mariah, like Rosemary.
Which is German name is just Ringelblume.
Ringelblume, so German.
Which is just, unfortunately, just mentioning the seeds, which are kind of kringle.
Yeah, the seeds are really interesting because they're so... Yeah, they're going like round, like almost small laves. Or like, they're like small aliens.
As if the flower petals itself has crinkled up. Getting solid.
But it has a lot of texture. The seeds has a lot of texture and a lot of like movement, because it's these like round seeds, which is again interesting. I feel that calendula has such a depth that I've only just touched upon, and I feel like if we were having this conversation in a year, it would look very different. We might have that. So, okay, calendula, this bright sunshine, abundance, bringing in light, as Stephan said, sometimes shedding light on some of the places we don't want to look, but that we need to look. Deep trauma healing through working with it and for that we got to be conscious, right? And it can be a little uncomfortable sometimes because it is it's bright. You can't run away from it. It's like, look at this.
Yeah, brings me back to our entrance topic about what is healing. And I think when we're working with the plants, then we will look at all aspects of, by example, a scar. Then we look at the tissue and we look into what has happened, why it has happened, and which emotional wounds it has created, and maybe what was before, so which was the situation even leading to that. So the true healing brings us through all of that.
Yeah.
It's not just covering up a wound.
No.
It is something else. It goes beyond that.
Yeah, to be in that process, it does something very different when we're conscious in it, right? When we're listening to the whispers of the plants and of ourselves. And of course, we can do some of this without plants. I mean, there's so many beautiful energies to work with, but specifically with plants, there is this interesting groundedness to it because it is right here in the garden. Like, the earth right under our feet. It's like with our bodies, and for me that gives it such a beautiful embodiment character, or like it goes in the physical body, and it goes in the spirit and in the energy. And one thing is closing a physical wound, but as you said, all the traumas that come from it, all the emotional wounds, like to really integrate that, to really learn how to heal that's the next level. And that's where I find it working shamanistic with plants. I find that a really important part is to be open to receive, to ask for help. It's like I really feel that the plants we live in a free will universe. The plants respect us as sovereign beings. So if we say nope, I would like to stay in this trauma, then they're like, okay, that's your choice. So we gotta say, yes, please, come and help me. I would like to go towards a more joyous, more abundant, more beautiful, harmonious life. And then they're there, helping us. I lost my thought of my thought just like disappeared for me.
Somehow the quality.
Yeah, of today. The quality of today is really like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was totally off track right now.
Yeah.
As if there are secrets which are not ready to reveal.
Yeah. I think part of what I wanted to go towards was that there is something beautiful about learning how to open up to another energy, and whether that is a partner or a plant or whatever, like if it's a tantric practice or whatever it is, I feel there's a lot actually similarities between some of the tantric ways in relationships and some of the ways of connecting with plants, because you gotta open up for another energy, another being. And that can take us straight to our traumas with relationships. All of us have. No matter how amazing our parents were, we still live in a life in a world that has all the chaos that it does. So we do, sometimes love wasn't unconditional. There was conditions. And we learned to put ourselves into neat little boxes to fit into that, to be loved. And so when we start relating to plants and inviting them in, and not saying, I'm the one, I can do this, hyper independent, I'm the healer, I'll do it. But when we actually go on that more humble path of asking something bigger than us, asking something greater, and whether that is,
Doesn't mean that we have to make ourselves small.
No,
not at
that's
all.
the thing. We are amazing, huge, beautiful, divine beings as well, and it takes nothing from us. I actually think it gives us something to ask for help and to connect with something greater. I don't say bigger, but like greater, a greater connection. Like in our relationship, like our relationships in some way is greater than I am. And it's not just my needs that are important. Your needs are important too, and what's good for our family is important. And I feel that when we go into that kind of path with plants, it really opens up something that is healing in itself, that I don't have to do all of it. I don't have to do so much, to fix so much, to have all these big responsibilities, which we all do, responsibility of, walking our path and being the leaders that we are, and relaxing into the embrace of a plant, of a teacher plant, is so liberating. And that for me is a way to freedom, actually, because that is surrendering into something higher, but not from this ego perspective of I need to become Buddha or and I feel like that in itself, opening up to receive, opening up for help, connecting with earth, with wise beings as plants, and allowing them to be big and beautiful and teaching me, that is healing in itself.
I think what you're speaking of is, to me, reminds me of the idea that we are alone, and sometimes it might feel that when we speak to ourselves, we speak to our inner actors, there's nobody else inside there, inside that mind, inside that universe, inside that realm. And we kind of gonna get lost in that, and the belief is there that we are alone, and life shows us in some ways that our family, so the greater family, where we come from, is at one point not there to help us. And
you mean like blood relations?
Blood relations, yeah.
It's just family could also be the relatives.
But I meant is that they are not there, not in the way that we wish them to be, not that we wish them to hold space for us. And the idea that something greater than us is with us all the time, we sort of lost as society. So there's a big movement we followed the last many hundred years of kind of killing our God and putting science on top and want to explain everything. And everything what we cannot explain is by definition not existing. So in one hand it was good that we killed that old god because it was anyways kind of made up. It's okay. But on the other hand, we lost a true connection. And that true connection is, in my experience, the realization that God is green. And it's nothing grandfatherish. Maybe I don't have that experience. Maybe it's there for someone. For me, it's that it is in nature. And that it is in many, many ways very feminine. And I, as a man, felt even more abandoned because there's no counterpart in that way. So a little bit lost as well. But the ability of truly asking for help for many of us comes when we are really truly at the end of our abilities. And I feel like women are most likely better in that, of asking earlier for help. For me, it was very late to come to that point where I was not able to help myself anymore. And I was calling for help and realized that there is something. It's interesting, but as you said before, we are sovereign beings, and there are beautiful, loving beings never ever would interfere into somebody else's experience, except we ask them for help.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for me and in my work as a plant priestess and as working with healing, that is really so high on my priority, this like consent. I can't just go in and dive around in somebody's energy if they haven't given me their consent.
That's manipulation.
That's manipulation, yeah. And no matter how good the intentions are. I mean, I think we can all have parents that have good intentions, and then we're like, yeah, but I don't want this. And I feel that's kind of the same way in whatever role of authority or role of a leader or role of a healer is really important. And the more I go into this, the more plant. And obviously there's like an energetic consent, and there's also like, can I work with you? And sure, when people come to me, there's already some level of consent that like I would like to work with you, and here I actually pay money for it. But it's really important for me to like honor that. sovereignty of each and every person. And I think that's also kind of bringing that healing, like what is healing? Wholeness, balance. And I was just thinking what you said before with like that we lost connection. I don't feel that we lost connection. We forgot that it's there, because it's still there. And I remember
we are just hiding from it.
Yeah, like for many years we talked about reconnect to nature with what we're doing with Mighty Tree. And then we realized, or like somebody was like, why reconnect? Isn't it something different? And at first I was like, no. And then when I really listened to the wisdom of what this man had said, I was like, oh yeah, it's deepening the connection, or like remembering it. Yeah. Because it's already there. It never left us. We never lost it. It's there.
It's many people are speaking about that they had that connection as a child.
Yeah.
And I really think we should not blame society or our parents for that. I think it's just aspects of the mind are settling in, which we have to master. So the whole field of mind is not there as a child, and we are just simply connected. We are there, we are present in the moment. And then this sort of new tool comes to us, and this needs a shitload of mastery. And for some people this is what they end up, and for some people they want to overcome it. And this is also not to put it down. It is an amazing tool, and helps us to doing all these things, to sit here today and talk to you.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you said, what I really resonated with, and what I've been thinking the past maybe 2 weeks is really like putting even more thought into I'm done with blaming the past, blaming capitalism, blaming my parents for the traumas that I have.
Evil people.
Yeah, blaming like past generations for putting us in this climate crisis, and like just being in blame and saying, okay, am I ready? And I feel actually also calendula in that, because I've been working with calendula all the time while having these kind of thoughts, which are like, am I ready to step into responsibility, into love, actually into peace within me, and saying, okay, if this isn't about blaming, what if it's about, and it's not about fixing, what if it's about creating something better, something even more beautiful? So let's go towards what is beautiful. Let's look at the shiny, beautiful calendula, abundant and like sharing all her beauty, instead of blaming, why is the trauma there? Why is the trauma there? And yeah, fuck the people who made it. And
then you recall it all the time.
Yeah, but and also like I do want to mention with that though, because I do feel there is a spiritual bypass of this, like, oh, well, if you needed to be sexually abused, then that was karmic and your soul chose that, so that's what's it, and this person was your teacher. And on one level you can say yes to that, and I say, hey, that's bullshit. This is not okay. This is wrong. and now this person has to deal with the consequences of that. And so I do feel that like it, so just to say that when I say step out of the blame, it isn't saying, oh, everything is okay. Like, sure, on the highest level, everything is okay. And on this earthy level, there's some things where it's good to say boundaries. And there I actually think calendula has a point as well. Like with the wax of like closing a wound, and what we're talking about with like, where is my boundaries? Where is my physical boundaries? Where's my energetic boundaries? Yeah. Where do I go to? What am I okay with and what am I not okay with? Where's the limit? And I feel some of the teachings that calendula have, many plants have, but some plants like calendula have it even more. Like all plants teaches us to remember our connection, and to come home into and create that space of self-healing, like where grace can come in and heal, right? And some plants, they all teach in different ways. And I feel like chamomile, who's here next to us, what I feel chamomile does is kind of make the space bigger. I always get pretty angry when I sit out here, or annoyed, frustrated when I sit and meditate with chamomile. Kind of opens up the space and be like, okay, look at this from a broader perspective. Like, really it makes it bigger. And yeah, so just to say that, like, all plants have in some ways some of the same teachings about the truth of our being and about remembering, and some plants like calendula really teaches about healing, really teaches about wholeness, really teaching about like boundaries, which is part of that healing, shining, which is part of that healing, abundance, flow, and I do feel that many people who come to us as well, and also myself included in my processes, when there is a healing from scarcity to abundance, which I feel is so kind of ingrained in people, and sure, it's connected to so many things, but like this scarcity, this fear, when you go in like survival mode, is there enough for me? Am I enough? Like grabbing, taking everything we can, and thus there's not enough for everybody, because some people are taking and taking and taking out of fear, which I feel is one of like the major things for us to heal, and going back into trust. There is enough. I will get exactly what I need. I will not take more than I need. Yes, I can pluck this flower if it's right to pluck this flower right now. And I will ask permission, and I will communicate with the plant about it. And I feel that's like that healing of like, there is enough. I'm in the river keeps flowing, and I don't know all the answers right now. I am on the path. This is life. Sometimes it sticks a little, sometimes it's wet, sometimes it's warm, sometimes you're sweaty, and like, how do I be in the flow of this life, of this river, in the most enjoyable way, in the most pleasurable way, in the most conscious way, and then just walking one step at a time. Like, I might just see the next step, I might not even see the next step. Maybe I can just feel that my one foot is lifting from the floor and I don't even know where it's going to end. But I will trust that wherever I place it is a good place, and I will just continue walking. That healing, which I feel plants like cacao also go very deeply into, but all plant, again, this is like a major thing for us of like heightening our vibration. But I really feel that calendula is pushing that button within me. That was a lot of words.
Yeah, I think trust is one of the major teachings of all of the plants. Most of the plants, I cannot speak for all of the plants, but all of that I know. But also you have to imagine, you cannot walk away as a plant. You kind of have to trust where that seed falls and starts to grow, that this will be getting something. So you do your best wherever you're falling onto, and then you produce some seeds and do your best that this will be even more, and that's all.
Yeah.
And therefore you have to trust wherever you are, and that is a plant. All of the plants. Some of them can grow, and some of them trees can even walk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they also are there when it's their time. So there grows a lot of them one year, and the next year you wonder where they went. So they somehow, as if they chose another place to live. Their job is done, so to say. So, but back to calendula, I really feel as well, it's those healthy boundaries which are coming up here.
When you're talking, just when you said that, what it reminds me is when calendula is a companion plant, right? It does help the plants around it. There is still something about what's me and what's other. Where like a plant like sunflower, it's pretty clear. Like, I am the sunflower. I'm standing here.
It's anyways growing over all of
them. Yeah. It just... Was that what we were going to say? Yeah. You lost a thread. I was just like... a thread came. I'm curious about the flow of this conversation, how much that's influenced by calendula, because what I feel is that both of us have some kind of line. We go down and then we drop it. It's like, oh, and then down, and I don't know how much it is because that line is created by the mind, and then it's like, oh, not that direction. It feels like she's pretty...
I feel the same, so we kind of are guided in some ways, but not in a super flowy way. So it's,
none of us
try to explore that field of of all the petals of that flower in
Yeah.
a way, and let's see
Yeah.
what's in the center.
Yeah, teaching us to listen in a more graceful way.
How to listen in a graceful way.
Yeah.
I always have the idea that this is an action.
Yeah, no, it's more of a... I mean, what I feel like, for instance, I have kind of an ear infection, or what we want to call it now. And what is happening is that I have so much old stuff in my ears. Karma, dirt, it feels like, that I can't hear clearly. Like, because it isn't, there's not like a lot of water coming out, and it's not, it really feels, there's just old programming, old stuff that is hindering me from listening clearly. And she's like, what are you gonna do about it? And what I feel called to in this process, which feels very calendula guided, is like, don't do a whole bunch. Like, I'm cleaning my ears, I'm eating good, but what she's really calling me for is like, lay in your garden, take a long nap, read a book, don't stress, like come back into that okay zone in your body, in your nervous system, have space. And then she's popping up with my life trauma, like the biggest trauma in my life. She's just like, every single time I sit down with calendula, she's like, psst, over here. And I'm like, no thank you. And I feel that's really how she works. And I feel that part of me slowing down to listen to calendula gives space for that energy to come in and help heal the energy and emotions that are connected with that trauma that physically has been healed such a long time ago, but it's still there in energy. And I feel she puts her beautiful warm glow straight on it, like a little lamp, just like, here it is. And slowly, when I start getting a little more surplus of energy in that, I feel the humor of it. Because it's like, she's just truth. It's just like, hey, this is what it is. Look at it.
It's normally not crazy and hard to deal with, but it's those elements we don't want to look at.
Yeah, it's fucking annoying. Couldn't it just be like, hey, the sun is shining, we're drinking calendula in the garden, let's just dance and have a nice time.
Yeah, like the ugly toad in the fairy tale. Yeah? So look at it.
Yeah.
Find the beauty in it, and then you actually will find it. There is something beautiful in there. And this speaks about, in some ways, soul retrieval. That part of you is trapped in and wrapped into ugliness, which we don't want to look at, and we don't want to have that part anymore. And
yeah, this is not me. I'll put you in that corner.
It's ugly, we don't want to touch it at all because it's slimy or whatever it is. But having here something shiny on it might even want to lead us to deal with it.
And also, just with that, right, then this beautiful calendula shines her bright light on it. That might also make us feel, what? Here's this beautiful calendula. I'm not as beautiful. Look at what I got. It's ugly. And then that whole process can come up, which is such an important healing process too, right? But which is like, then going into the whole, even more resistance for the ugliness. And like calendula isn't shining.
But she's persistent. If you stick with her, she will keep on telling you the same message until you get it.
Until you get it. Yeah, that's very kind. That is very kind. Yeah. No, but just that I feel more resistance comes up with calendula. Like, it's also interesting. We do ceremonies with cacao and a plant almost each month. And, blue lotus, fall, bobensana, fall, nettle, fall. We have mugwort in 2 months. And it's already like half booked. Calendula, empty. Like, it creates so much resistance, or at least I feel
it brings something up.
It brings something up. Not that the other plants don't, but it's very interesting that, like, specifically calendula, and I feel that on the surface it has this reputation of this, like, oh, beautiful skin healing, beautiful yellow flower, let's put it in a cream. But actually, when we go to the depth of this plant, there's a lot of resistance because she shines on the ugliness.
Yeah, but it's our resistance.
It's our resistance, right? So it's not, but just to say
and
that,
not
like,
against the plant.
No, against ourselves.
Against what's in us.
Against looking at what's in us. And so it's interesting that there's so much more resistance to this beautiful master healer that, like, yarrow, people, that's a master healer too, healer of wounds, and people don't have the same kind of resistance to yarrow.
Normally not.
Normally
no,
not.
Maybe somebody has, but
I mean, yeah, sure, we all have
not in that
resistance, but it's very, very interesting. And I do feel, for me, that, like, goes straight into some of the sister wounds, like this competition between women, this, like, who's better than the other, witch burning, like, all of that wound of, like, seeing this beautiful, graceful goddess of a plant, and then suddenly going into comparison. Oh, I'm not as beautiful, or am I as good, or, like, and I really feel she also goes straight into that one, and she isn't doing it, she's just shining her beautiful light, and then we're doing it. And I feel that's the same when you look at these, like, amazing women in some, let's say I go to a women's gathering and there's this shiny beautiful woman, like, okay, some of them might have a huge open sister wound, but what I mean is, go there, you look at her, and she's just amazing, and she's not in the wound, but you might be, or, like, I might be, and then I'm starting this, oh, who's better than who, and what, and that I feel calendula goes into.
Yeah, I wouldn't name it as a sister wound, it's not in my system.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a form of jealousy, and not in a way that I want to have what you are. It's in a way that I feel so not worthy and ugly, whatever. And
right.
on the other hand, this is also why some people are not, including myself, not want to shine so much, because then you see other people feeling sad and feeling ugly.
I remember,
that's weird.
Yeah, I remember having that. I don't have it anymore in this specific case with you, but I remember when we started being a couple, sometimes when I was with friends that I knew was really sad of being single, or, like, had a difficulty with seeing us being so happy together, I would immediately not be so close with you. I would, like, take a little distance. And it took some years for me to be like, hey, if this person has an issue with us being happy, that is that person. We are sharing medicine, and seeing how we are together is, for some people, really medicine. Like, we've had people come to our retreats and just say, several people saying, seeing the way that we are together is creating hope and is so healing for them. So if they go into jealousy, if they go into comparison, if they go into looking at their own ugliness, that's an opportunity, and it's not my responsibility. Right? If I do it not from a place of look at me, but more like, this is what I feel like.
If you naturally shine like Calendula does, this is not a place of ego. This is not a polished armor.
No.
Which behind there is your own ugliness. I mean, really, the truth inside of you, which comes forward to producing a flower.
But yeah, it is a dance, because I step into that sometimes. Places like Instagram can really make me overwhelmed and triggered into
You should post more
my
calendulas.
ugliness. I feel like we've been, posting a lot of calendulas. And then, and I feel what has really been a key for me in that has actually, and it was really you teaching me that, being like, hey, I do not accept this in my system. So every time, if I go in and see somebody gorgeous, not how they look, but like if they work with something similar and I start feeling insecure, my new programming, or like it's been some time now, but like that programming comes in that says, I don't accept that thought. No, thank you. And then I can be like, wow, you're gorgeous. That's amazing. Good for you. I'm gorgeous too. Let's all be gorgeous. And that's such a relief. And I can still go into that sometimes when I don't have enough energy to kind of say, no, thank you. Here's my boundary. This isn't,
And this is also the difference between the true healing, which takes its time, and the coping. You could tell yourself 1,000,000 times that you are beyond that. But if you are not able to feel it, it's nothing. Then still there's a big part of you which holds against it.
Yeah.
And at that point, there is where actually the help we need comes in. There is where Calendula can step in and give you that flower, and you can shine with it.
But also that's the healing journey, the
Yes.
embodiment. That is the healing, because we
Yes.
can have a high peak experience in a ceremony or like have a realization about something, and that's great. That shows us where to go. We're like, oh, that's a North Star. I want to go that way. And plants and plant medicine and plant ceremonies are amazing for that. Wow, that is how it feels to be a calendula. That's my North Star. And I'm still standing here and I gotta walk that way. And I might never reach that, and also like I'm gonna be my own North Star and all that. But like,
you cannot
how-
ever be Calendula.
No.
Don't want to be.
No. I want to be me. And like, how do I walk to what? Like, what is then the journey? How does my feet walk it? And that's the embodiment, and that's, I feel that that's part of, at least for me, working with these plants. Like, this is my life. I sit and meditate with plants every single day. It's not something I put on when I do a ceremony with someone. It's not like a shirt I can put on and then take off again. This is my life. This is my path. This is what I'm committed to, and things keep coming up. And it would be great if
Of course it comes up.
Yeah.
I just want to keep on going into those healing modalities. I feel like there's one practical thing that you've been given something in your emotional realm to help you, and then you speak about you've meditating with the plants, and I think in the entry you ask the question, where does it come from? Where does insights coming from? Where does creativity is coming from? And this idea of it's me, that is so small. So there are so many inventions, the bicycle and the car and all the big things, which made at similar times independently by independent individuals which never had contact. How should that work? It has to come from a different realm. And by knowing that and calling on your friends, which are actually there in name it belief, but I know that this manifestation of that plant right in front of us, it is a manifestation of her spirit. And that spirit, even if it's smaller than me, even I am able to rip it off, it's way greater than I ever think of. It's vast, it has immense power. And this is not for me to use. That would be misuse, because it's her power. It's like we have to treat those plants like individuals. If that would be my sister, I could just ask for help. I cannot just take her and rip an arm off to press the buttons I need to press. No. Or then she has to be also willing to. And all those things comes together, that we ask them, that we allow them, that we allow them to enter. And sometimes, yes, it feels worse. You feel sometimes sick. And to understand how the plant is working, it needs sometimes an interpreter. And that is the plant medicine woman or man, or a healer, a medicine man, or a plant priestess, or whatever you call those people who have a greater idea of how this works. And so we can come together, and that is actually what we can help. So that's why we see us as helpers, as channels of those energies. But the healing, that comes from another dimension. And those spirits, a plant is literally in meditation all the time. It doesn't have that monkey brain, not even any brain. So what else should it do? It is in meditation, and therefore mating it in meditation, perfect place. And they are doing this since millions of years, more years than people exist. So they are masters, and we can learn from them.
Yeah, I feel like just adding to that conversation, that in my belief, we are all part of that great spirit. We are all immense divine beings, and the plants are a teacher. Like they, as you say, they're living so aligned to their dharma, they're living so aligned to their purpose, and they're so, calendula isn't trying to be chamomile isn't trying to be calendula. That's like a human thing, running away from our problems, and like all of these things. And like, obviously plant has other problems, but so I just want to mention it from this place. It's not about making us smaller. Like, everything is great, everything is grand, and it's great to have help. We were walking next to a lake yesterday, and I was thinking about, I don't know if we had drank cacao, or maybe we were I think we were just
we
with
always
the
drink
plants.
cacao someday.
No, but I think we were just with the plants. But I remember what I thought was like, wow, how is this for normal people that don't work with plants and don't have teachers like this? How do they go through really hard things? Like, how is that? That must be really hard. I mean, I get therapy and good friends, and like, but I was just thinking, like, wow, that sounds tough not to have all these door openers that can help guide us deeper into remembrance. And then we can remember that we are also divine, and that we can allow healing to happen through us, whether or without or with a plant. Yeah, I feel the conversation slowly. Oh, and also I feel like my ears and my head is a little like booming. But also sitting straight on the sun.
Not finally, but I think we got one door.
We got a door into Calendula. Yeah, we were looking all around, first starting with some of the concepts we already talked about, and then later coming into some other ones. That was nice, more gracefully at the end. Thank you, Calendula, and Cacao, and Garden,
and Eva,
and Stephan, and Sunshine.
Oh yeah.
And thank you very much to our neighbors for this moment, not making too much noise.
Absolutely.
That was very much
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us that piece of calm time.
Yeah. And thank you for whoever joined the conversation. Hope that you got something inspiring. Hope it opens the door for you in some ways. If you're curious about working with calendula, we do offer sessions online and physical. We do make calendula oil. We dry calendula as well.
And at one point there will be a calendula ceremony.
Again, yes.
Again.
Yes. More of those. Yeah. If you have any questions, if you're curious about learning more from us, we do offer mentorships, we do offer apprenticeships, mainly with individually, like really going deep into each person's process, doing ceremonies, doing sessions, doing plant treatments, but we also do offer courses and retreats and events and stuff.
Have a look at our homepage.
Yeah, if you feel the call for that. And then we're wishing you all a very wonderful day. Thank you so much to these beautiful flowers in front of us. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you.